My name is Josh Krasinski. I am calling this June 9th, 2026 STIF Advisory Committee meeting to order. We're going to start with roll call. Just as a reminder, the microphone is important for folks who are joining us online or listening to the stream. So when it's green, it's on. So when I call your name, please let me know you're here. Kelly Clark. I'm here. Scott Lemons. Here. Thank you. Bart. Here. Chelsea.
Here.
Thank you. Josh Myatt. Cassette.
Present.
Dave.
Here.
Carrie.
Here.
Gino. Pete.
Here.
And Bill.
Here.
Okay. With that, we'll move on to agenda review. After a public comment period, we'll start with STIF Advisory Committee officer elections, and then we'll have a short presentation from Kathleen Flynn on the general reason we are here, followed by some presentations from folks who have STIF discretionary applications that we will then review, discuss, and make a funding recommendation to the LTD Board of Directors. Following that, we'll have a few staff updates. So I do want to note there are 9 different projects that we're receiving presentations on this evening, and our recommendation is due to the board by tomorrow. So we need to get this done this evening. So I may keep us moving if we need to. And so along those lines, let's just move right into public comment. Is there anybody present in person or online who wishes to make a public comment?
No public comment here.
Excellent. So we will proceed to the first agenda item, then the STIF Advisory Committee officer elections. Kathleen, what do we need to do for this?
So as you all probably remember, in February, we voted for Josh as our chair, Carrie as our vice chair. Because we have new bylaws, as a technicality, we need to vote again and cover us through our new officer terms, which is the fiscal year instead of the calendar year. I want to take a moment and open it up and see if there's anybody else who wants to throw their hat in the ring. If not, I would entertain a motion.
Cassette?
Mr. Chair, I would move that we forward Josh Krasinski as chair and Carrie Turner as vice chair.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, then we'll proceed to a roll call vote. When I call your name, please let me know whether you're voting aye or nay. Scott?
Aye.
Bart?
Aye.
Chelsea?
Aye.
Cassette?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So that is unanimous, and I am stuck in this position for another year. We'll move on to our next agenda item, the STIF discretionary or intercommunity funding presentation by Kathleen Flynn.
Thanks, Josh. So I think just about everybody was here last month, so I will just do a very quick overview. Typically, at this time of year or a little bit later, ODOT puts out a call for STIF discretionary and STIF intercommunity projects. This year, that has been wrapped into a larger solicitation called the Competitive Transit Grants for fiscal year 28. And if you could go to the next slide, please, Norma. What's different this year about the competitive transit grant solicitation is it includes 3 sources of funding. So we've got our STIF discretionary and STIF intercommunity funds, which are the subject of this committee. And then we're also including federal 5339 funds for buses and bus facilities. Some of the proposals we're seeing tonight may end up being funded with federal 5339 funds. We just don't know at this point, and ODOT has asked that this committee review every proposal that came in during this solicitation from Lane County because it's possible that they could be funded at least in part with STIF discretionary or STIF intercommunity funds. So that is what we're going to do. As you may remember, we reviewed 3 proposals last week, and we're going to review the remaining 9 this evening. Next slide. So the committee's role is to review and potentially prioritize the local STIF discretionary and intercommunity proposals, and then provide a written funding recommendation to LTD's Board of Directors. Next, thanks. We have a total of 12 projects, so I couldn't get them all on one slide. A quick note that in addition to having 2 phases to this solicitation, ODOT also had proposers submit an initial application, and then they can submit a final application. Right now, because of our tight timeline due to LTD's board schedule, we are looking at initial applications. That means that folks are going to get some feedback from ODOT. There may be small errors that need to be corrected. We are going to look at what we've got tonight from the initial applications. Presenters are welcome to point out any changes that they know they're going to make. I can just point out 2 errors right off the bat on this project summary. The Diamond Express total, it would help if I had that right in front of me, is actually going to be $348,000 for the minimum grant ask. And on the next slide, Norma, number 7, the LTD Rural Shuttle minimum grant amount ask is $379,600, and I do have that those numbers correct on the 1-page handout you have in front of you. I did provide this handout, which is a copy of something that's in your packet. As we go through the proposals, you are free to use this or not. It may or may not be helpful. But you can use it to make your own notes or anything else you want to remember about each proposal as we go through. And just to give you an overall sense of where we stand. So the total grant requests from Lane County, not including match, is about 6.4 million. If you include match, that goes up to 8.1 million. The total available funding statewide, including the 5339 funds, is about 25 million, and the total available STIF discretionary and intercommunity funds statewide is 17.2 million. So that just gives you a sense of where Lane County is falling in terms of its overall ask compared to the statewide availability. Next slide, Norma. Does anyone have any questions before we move into proposals about the actual funding process or funding sources?
Okay, then we'll move on into presentations. So because we have so many presentations tonight, I'm going to ask presenters to take about 6 minutes per project. That includes both presentation and question and answer time. So I'll let you divvy that up a little bit based on what you want, but I'll give you a little warning at 4 minutes, just so you know. So without further delay, let's start with our first project, the University of Oregon Intercity Electric Bus Charging Project, presented by Steve Mattel.
Feel free to choose any, turn your mic on like I just did. Thanks. With the button in, the flat button in front. Perfect.
Well, thank you. Greetings, everybody. Thank you for having me. Thanks for Kathleen in particular for inviting me. My name is Steve Mattel. I'm the Sustainability Director at the University of Oregon and here to present the project. Thanks for giving me a little bit of your time. I'll try and go relatively quickly and keep it pretty high level, take maybe a max of 3 minutes to just kind of cover the basics and then leave the rest for questions. That's often where it's most interesting. So very high level, we're really excited to present this project. It's a partnership with that includes several organizations, public and private, both. So already in place is a bus company, MTR Western. They happen to own two of these 100% all electric buses. And they use them mostly for special events. And the reason is because they don't have the established charging infrastructure where they need to establish a consistent back and forth ride. They've reached out to us some time ago, and we would love to put in a level 3 charger on the corner of Agate and, make sure I still get this right, 13th, right there at the heart of the University of Oregon campus. There's already a functional bus station there that takes people back and forth between Eugene and mostly destinations north, but destinations south as well. If we could put this charger there in place, the idea is that these two buses would run, I think it's 5 times a day initially. And what they need is during their 45-ish minute stop in Eugene, they would take advantage of that level 3 charger to top off to give them the range they need to safely make it back to Portland where they would recharge overnight. I don't know do you have the ability to advance the slide or do I? Oh. Thank you. So just to give you a little bit of a sense of, that it really is located strategically, not only strategically at the University of Oregon campus, but just a few footsteps away from the MX line, right? So it's really designed such that anybody, not just U of O students who happen to live nearby, but anybody really in the Eugene-Springfield area can easily access this. The bus, you can see that the partnership is pretty diverse. The University of Oregon, the city of Eugene's heavily involved. eWeb gave $30,000, actually $60,000 to support the project, and MTR Western's a major partner as well. The other thing that I'll say that I haven't yet covered is that it's not an exclusive partnership with MTR Western. We aren't signing any kind of a contract that says that they have exclusive use over the charger. They are willing to donate a charger at $165,000, valued at $165,000. So that is a significant chunk of our total match for the project, but they don't have exclusive right, and there's significant capacity to use that facility for more than just the 5 planned MTR routes. So the last thing I'll say is just about the budget numbers. We apparently had some issues entering the information from our kind of master sheets into the ODOT online form. So just a quick, we are working through this with them, and the final proposal, which is due in a few weeks, will reflect the correct numbers. But I just wanted you to know at a high level, we are asking for $1.131 million in change. That's a slightly roughed out number, or 1.131 million, and we have $367,900 in in-kind match lined up for the project. That doesn't include the a couple $100,000 that's been invested to date to get the design to the point that it's at now. I'll stop there and be happy to answer questions if there's time remaining.
Just about 4 minutes on the dot there. Any questions from the committee for Steve on this project? Yeah, Carrie, go ahead.
Do you have the timeline for when this could be implemented?
Yeah, from our understanding is the STIF money, if awarded, would be made available, I think July, we would be noticed July 1. The money's available to spend starting October, I've forgotten, 1st or 31st. We will largely be shovel ready at that point. We have funded on our own the remaining design work so that the project is essentially ready to bid and do the installation. So it is, maybe 3 to 6 months roughly to do that work. The rest is will have been done ahead of time.
Cassette?
Just curious, knowing that there could be potentially federal funding in there, have we also looked at NEPA, doing any NEPA?
That's a great question. That's a thing we're working through right now. We are scheduled to meet with some folks from ODOT to get some more clarity there. We think that we have a CE, a potential categorical exclusion. There's a meeting scheduled next week to get clarity on that. That's the best I can say right now.
Other questions for Steve? Yep, Bart, go ahead.
What's the charge rate on that charger for the bus? I mean, when is it a full charge? I mean, what's the timeline for?
Oh gosh, I didn't bring that information with me. I'm sorry. It's in any case, so they will mostly charge overnight. They will use a 45-minute time period or so for a sort of a so-called top off. It's I believe they accept the buses accept 150 kW per 150 kW. That's a pretty massive boost. Exactly how many miles per minute, a bus like that gets and it's charged. I could look that up. I didn't bring that number with me.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, last question now.
Quick question. So this includes the bus shelter in addition to the infrastructure, the other infrastructure, correct?
Yeah, we were advised, to kind of ask for everything that we would like to have at this facility. That includes some reinforcements on the street, on the pavement, so that the asphalt there doesn't break down as quickly as it otherwise would. We asked for a bus shelter as well, and we noted in the application that those things can be removed and phased in at a later time or not at all. If you, roughly speaking, the value of the shelter, the design associated with it, et cetera, as well as the bus pad, are somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000, $80,000. It's a little hard to tease out precisely what that is, although we could do that, but that's a thing we're willing to forego if it made any difference.
Okay. Thank you very much, Steve, for that presentation. And we will move on to our next project.
Thank you.
So City of Eugene Two-Wheeled Transit Transition Funds, Shane Rhodes presenting.
Great. Thank you. Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm Shane Rhodes, the Transportation Options Program Manager for the City of Eugene. I'm here to talk about the application Two-Wheeled Transit Transition Funds to support the continued operation of our regional bike share system during its transition away from its current private sponsorship model. This request ensures that bike share remains reliable while we finalize a new public funding and governance model for 2028 that we are currently working on. We're in the Bike Share 2.0 planning phase right now, and are working with LTD and other community partners on a new bike share system that will be even more integrated into our regional transit network. Next slide. The program's entering a transition window between the end of Peace Health's long-term sponsorship in 2027 and the launch of a new publicly supported system in 2028. This grant would fill a critical operating gap that will support system operations, rebalancing, customer service, maintenance, software, and transition planning to sustain uninterrupted service during this period. Over the years, we've increased the service area, the number of bikes, and the number of rides, now reaching 300,000 annual trips, even as sponsorship funding has steadily declined. Without bridging this gap, service availability, reliability, and equity would be harmed, impacting students, essential workers, and riders with limited mobility choices. Bike share is a low-cost, zero-emission mode used daily by all types of riders, including resource-limited ones, and it supports first and last-mile access to transit, connects riders to jobs and schools, and enhances equitable mobility throughout the region. For a relatively modest operational investment, bike share dramatically expands the reach of our transportation network, offering one of the lowest cost ways to increase transit access without adding new routes or service hours. The city has over 8 years of experience managing this system with established contracts and procedures, and this project sustains an existing proven service with predictable costs while positioning us to develop a new system with a more regional identity, one that isn't tied to a title sponsor necessarily, but can be more closely aligned with the LTD transit network, potentially including shared branding, coordinated network planning, fare integration, and other mobility connections. This transition allows us to build a system that better reflects LTD's role in our mobility ecosystem and creates a more seamless, interconnected experience for riders. So on behalf of the City of Eugene and our partners, LTD, the University of Oregon, the City of Springfield, LCOG, eWeb, and others, I ask for your support of the Two-Wheel Transit Fund Transition Funds. And thank you for your time, and be open for any questions.
Thank you, Shane. Questions from the committee?
Yes, Gary.
you faced any costs in regards to damages or lost bikes?
We have not lost any bikes due to theft since this system started. We have had a few damaged bikes, but we, through the city's insurance, have recouped cost on a few of those damaged bikes.
Thank you.
Yeah, does that answer the full question?
It absolutely does. I appreciate that.
Yep.
Carrie?
I think my question, I don't remember if it was covered in the packet, but you mentioned City of Springfield as a partner. Is there, I mean, could that partnership potentially expand so that there'd be more bikes in Springfield as well?
Yes, I think that partnership could definitely expand, especially as we work towards integrating more with LTD. I think there's a potential for expansion. This Bike Share 2.0 plan that we're working on currently, we currently have 450 bikes. Our minimum for the expansion is 500, but could be 600, 700, sort of depending on how the numbers pan out. We are looking at e-bikes and pedal bikes and what the split might be, looking at other micromobility options. But expanded service area is certainly a part of that, and that could be density in Springfield would be a part that we'd look at.
And parts of North Eugene?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That's on the docket right now is as we look to expand our bike network, especially looking at Oakway and other areas, River Road, Santa Clara, like it's all on the table for expansion. Just funding.
Any other questions from the committee?
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Shane.
Thanks.
Our next presentation is on the City of Eugene Wheelchair Accessible Taxi Pilot Program Project. Rob Innerfeld presenting.
Good afternoon. I'm Rob Innerfeld, Transportation Planning Manager for the City of Eugene. First, I just want to say you have a tough job here because these are all like amazing projects. And I hope they all get funded in one way or another. So right now, if you live in our area, and I don't mean just Eugene, but Lane County, Springfield, Eugene, and you want to get around, a lot of people use taxis and what we call transportation network companies like Uber and Lyft to get around our communities. But if you are limited to using a wheelchair, you are out of luck. There's no companies or options for you for on-demand transportation, like via taxi, Uber, or Lyft, if you're in a wheelchair in our community. This includes if you fly into the Eugene airport. You might think, I'm going to go to Eugene, I'm in a wheelchair, I'm going to be able to get to my hotel, and there's no way to get there right now. So what we're proposing is a pilot project we're calling the Wheelchair Accessible Taxi Pilot Program to establish equitable 24/7 taxi service for people who use wheelchairs and whose needs cannot be accommodated by existing taxi companies, Uber, Lyft. And keep in mind, there are services like RideSource, but you have to schedule that over a day out. So that's not equitable to someone who's looking for an on-demand ride, like through taxi, Uber, or Lyft. And also that's just for people who live in our community, not someone who, if you fly into the airport, RideSource is not something that's available to you. So this program aims to fill a longstanding accessibility gap by ensuring that riders who rely on mobility devices have the same on-demand travel options as other community members. It would be available 24/7. People would use an app to access the service, just like they do. Basically, you would use the Uber or the Lyft app to access the service. So we want people to have the exact same experience that they do as if they're fully an able-bodied person. We've engaged a lot of community members on this. We've made over 50 community contacts, including 16 different community-based organizations, government organizations, existing service providers, and local businesses operating in this space. This has the potential to expand into Springfield as well, but what we've applied for would just be for Eugene to start. And it would be an 11-month pilot. We're estimating that we would provide around 3,000 rides over that time. We've requested just $120,000, and the city would provide a $30,000 match. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Rob. Questions from the committee? Dave?
Hi, Rob. This sounds like a really important project. And as a pilot, I'm wondering if you can speak a little bit to what would success look like. as a pilot to see, you know, after it's done, if it's been successful or not?
Sure, great question. So first of all, one thing that's going to be really important to this is marketing. Like we need to make sure that people know that this service is available and how to use it. So that'll be something we're going to want to really focus on right off the bat is that marketing communications component. And I mean, I think some of the things we'll want to look at is like, how much is it getting used? And I think the pilot will give us a sense too, like what's the demand like? Is it more or less than we thought it would be? Because that can inform a more permanent program. And I think also just doing surveys of people in the community that would be relying on the service to ask them like, did they use it? Did it meet their expectations? Was it available? I mean, we've talked with one potential service provider and they would have one vehicle like on standby all the time, but we don't, and they would have the ability to bring other ones to bear. But part of the question is, how long would people have to wait? Because that's just super important. So the demand could inform in the future, like how many vehicles are on standby or available.
Other questions, Cassette?
Thanks, Rob. Could you speak to, have you explored other methods of funding this service, either now or at the end of this pilot?
Sure. So the city collects a fee on taxi, Uber, and Lyft rides of 50 cents. Right now, that fee is being put towards the city's really, really large and growing general fund budget deficit. So our hope is that, my sense is that that's not available to us right now, but my hope is that by doing a pilot project, we could demonstrate the need for this. And then when the city does this next full 2-year budget, because right now we're just halfway through a 2-year budget, we could then request that either part of those fee funds be put towards establishing a permanent program or that the fee be increased by enough to run a permanent program. And then by doing the pilot, we'll know like how much will a permanent program cost.
Okay, I have Scott in the queue.
More of a comment, but thank you for coming. When you're looking at the gap, I think this would serve more than just people coming in because RideSource only covers a certain amount of our population within Eugene, and this would be an amazing service for the entire population of Eugene. So I just think, especially when you're looking at the effectiveness of the pilot, please look beyond the RideSource population, but a huge supporter of the project, and thank you.
Sure. And just to be clear, this would be available to the entire population of Eugene or anyone who's in Eugene. Like they don't have to live in Eugene. They would just have to be requesting the service in Eugene.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect.
Thanks.
That actually prompts a question from me. So is the geographic boundary, if you're starting your trip in Eugene or at the Eugene airport, or is it like if I'm just outside of Eugene, I can get back into Eugene? How do you envision that working?
I'm not totally sure, but I think you'd have to probably start your trip in Eugene, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, my hope is that eventually we can do the fee approach because I think that's something that we could potentially expand statewide, but we have to start somewhere. We have to get this off the ground.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, thanks.
Any other questions for Rob? Okay, thank you very much. So our next presenter is going to have 3 projects from Lane Council of Governments. So it's 6 minutes per project. So you don't have to cram all 3 of those into one speed round. Please introduce yourself and take it away.
Okay. My name is Megan Scholl, and I'm a planner with Lane Council of Governments, and I'll try not to take 12 minutes. So we are seeking we have 2 applications for ongoing operations for our Link Lane services, which includes 2 routes, our Florence to Yachats and our Eugene to Florence route. And then we have an additional application, the 5339, to acquire a bus. So our Eugene to Florence connector obviously connects Eugene to Florence, but it also has stops along the way and connects those communities. We have a stop at Amtrak here in Eugene, downtown Eugene, Veneta, Mapleton, Florence, Old Town in Florence, and then Florence Grocery Outlet. That obviously allows riders to connect to other transit coming into Eugene or in Florence to the Rhodey Express, or other providers heading north or south on the 101. It runs 7 days a week, 3 times, 3 round trips, starting in Eugene and ending in Eugene. And it's a $5 one-way ticket or $1 between Mapleton and Florence. And it's really important that we keep those prices accessible for community members. Our Category B bus acquisition is a demand that we have based on ridership, which actually, let's go to the next slide. This is not our most accessible graph. However, I'll explain a little bit more. The groupings are by quarter, and you will be able to see that left to right is the years starting from 2020 to 2026, only for the first quarter. The rest, we have 2025 data. But you can see our ridership has grown each year and greatly some years. So the demand to have a reliable bus that is accessible and has bike racks and can ensure that we can provide ongoing service when one bus is in the shop or something happens. It's always something we're finding with the buses. So it's good to have an extra bus and a bus that will allow us to accommodate our increasing ridership. Next slide. Similar, our Florence to Yachats connector is along Highway 101. There is that overlapping connection at the Florence grocery outlet, so people can transfer, and we coordinate closely with our Eugene to Florence provider so that there is no missed connections, as well as the route that we do not operate towards heading south on the 101. Then we stop at the Carl G. Washburn State Park, which we get people camping and hiking, going out and exploring, and the Little Log Church in Yachats. This also is 7 days a week. It has 4 round trips per day and is $2.50 one-way ticket for the entire route. And what a beautiful view. Next slide. So our Florence Yachats ridership, it has some odd pieces in there that we have tried to pinpoint, but overall from the inception to now, we've seen an increase in ridership. And as we see those kind of unexplained dips that we don't have a cause for, we just launched our onboard surveys, and then as we move into a more integrated fare and we can track ridership better, we'll hopefully be able to see, is it students, is it weather, is it events, and be able to get a little bit more information and have targeted marketing and outreach. A couple of things about both of these routes. These are windy routes. These are communities that have higher populations of older adults and people retiring from driving. So we see a lot of those populations utilizing these routes when they're not comfortable or they've been asked to no longer drive. We see students, we see people connecting for medical appointments, groceries, and it's not just our local residents. We see people that are visiting from out of state, out of country, that are utilizing these services. So it's a nice economic benefit as we see people visiting and utilizing these services and connecting to these smaller communities that rely on some of that tourism. And I think that is all. I'll also mention just our partnerships with the Confederated Tribes of Coos, Lower Umpqua, and Siuslaw Indians, Lane County, City of Florence, obviously LTD, and let's see, Amtrak, local residents, and a number of other organizations that have advocated for and continued support for these services. I'm happy to answer any questions the best of my ability. So yeah.
I just want to make a note before we go into questions. Even though Kathleen let me know that even though the Category B bus purchase is expected to be eligible for 5339 funds that we wouldn't normally review, because ODOT makes the ultimate determination of how funding's divvied up, we will make a recommendation to the board on that project as well. So I don't know if you came prepared for questions on that project. I'm going to take a little bit of chair prerogative and ask, what is a Category B bus?
I wish I had so much more information about it, and you would think I would, as I did a lot of research. So much language I do not understand about buses. My understanding is it is a size that we're missing, and that's the most detail I can provide you, but I can always follow up with more details on that.
Okay, thank you. I have Bill in the queue.
Hello, Megan. Thank you for presenting. Good. It's a good service. I'm familiar with it. I have a question about the slide, the bar chart. Can you back up just one slide? You may or may not know, you explained this isn't the most accessible slide, but I am curious. I noticed on the other version too, the January, February, and March cluster has an extra bar.
Yeah, that is our 2026 ridership so far.
I see. Thank you.
Other questions for Megan? We'll do Barton and Cassette.
Living in Florence, this is a really great service. I will tell everybody it's great service and it should be funded. That's just my own comment. So.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Megan, for your presentation. What a bargain to get from Eugene over to the coast and along the coast. Can you speak on the vehicle toward things like bike and mobility device capacity?
Yeah, so all of our buses are wheelchair accessible, and we do have bike racks on all of them. We're looking at the possibility of getting an addition or like a larger capacity. One aspect for that is that it might have to be attached to the back, and that can cause problems because it's a lot easier to see someone getting their bus off the front and not the back when they're driving away. And I can only imagine the emails we would get if we left someone without their bike. So trying to determine that capacity, it hasn't been an issue yet. And the only times, a handful of times that we've had too many bikes, there has been space to bring them on the bus.
Other questions from the committee?
Great.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next two projects are the Lane Transit District Diamond Express Oak Ridge Eugene Service and the LTD Rural Shuttle presented by John Allen. And just like the previous, 6 minutes per project, so you don't have to rush quite as much.
Great, I'll go fast. Thanks everyone, John Allen, Lane Transit District. And we're talking about two very different services, and I have a slide for Q&A at the end, but as I go through each project, if questions come up, feel free to stop me. So first, we're going to talk about the Diamond Express service, if you don't mind going to the next slide here. This is an important public transportation connection between Oak Ridge and the metropolitan area here. It's really the only public transit connection. It's a long-standing service that we've had for many years. We've historically used STIF funds to support this, STIF discretionary funds, and even before STIF existed, we used intercommunity funds that later got folded into the STIF discretionary program to be able to support this service. It's 4 trips daily, weekdays, and it also has limited Saturday service. This is providing important connections for folks to be able to seek employment opportunities in the metropolitan area, just to be able to have connections. When we've seen wildfires, other types of snow and ice, emergencies that have happened in the Oak Ridge area, this has provided an important service to be able to get people to connect to social services, food, employment, education within the metropolitan area. It also provides an important connection to what's one of our biggest sources of what the United Way refers to as ALICE households within Lane County. So that's asset limited, income constrained, employed individuals. In particular, there are quite a few low-income residents within Lane County that live within the Oak Ridge area. We try to accommodate by having an incredibly low fare of $2.50 for each trip, for a trip that lasts typically over an hour. So it's a lot cheaper than even a gallon of gas nowadays. In addition, for round-trip residents or riders, which is essentially the entirety of our ridership, we also provide a complimentary day pass on the fixed route bus. So anyone that needs to connect, so if they come into Eugene Station but still need to go to LCC to take a class, we provide a bus pass so that they can connect onto the fixed route system at no additional charge. This also provides opportunities for anyone who's interested in visiting Oak Ridge for tourism purposes. This is widely known as a mountain biking mecca throughout our area, so we have bike racks to be able to accommodate that. We aren't seeing really strong ridership for those purposes, but we do leave that open. The Amtrak train goes by, but it does not stop in Oak Ridge. So we actually provide an interlining connection with Amtrak service. So for anyone who's interested in purchasing fare, if they're coming from out of the area, they can purchase their fare to go all the way through Oak Ridge, and they'll just transfer at the Eugene train station onto our Diamond Express vehicle, which has a stop there. We also recently incorporated our UMO tap card fare system. So anyone who wants to either put that on their app or get a card can now pay using UMO fare on the Diamond Express bus, same as they would with any of our fixed route buses. So one fare system that connects all of those different services. We rely on discretionary funds to continue to support this service. So that brings us to our application today. This is joined typically with combinations of STIF formula funds for match, along with a contribution we receive from the city of Oak Ridge to support this service, as it's otherwise outside of our payroll tax boundary. If you don't mind going to the next slide. We also have a rural shuttle that is new to LTD this year. So whereas the Diamond Express has been a long-standing service that we've operated for many years, the rural shuttle has just launched on March 1st. So we've only had about 3 months to be able to evaluate this new pilot program. And this is based off some work that was done with LCOG, the Transit Development Plan, focusing on rural areas throughout Lane County to identify areas that are most in need, either unserved or underserved areas in need of public transit. So the rural shuttle program is intended to try to see what ridership might look like in some of those areas. And we've selected 3, which were the top 3 in the TDP, which took place in 2023. And this was based on wide feedback and outreach from rural residents and throughout Lane County. So the 3 that were selected were South Lane County, which currently operates Mondays and Wednesdays from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m., Mohawk Valley from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Tuesdays, and then Highway 36 between Mapleton and Deadwood, that's on Thursdays from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., which also allows for stops within the city of Florence. So for all 3 of these shuttles, the intention is to provide lifeline service in areas that otherwise have no connections in public transit to take them to the nearest city or area where they can otherwise connect. So that's going to be for Florence, for our Mapleton and Deadwood residents. In Mohawk Valley, that's connecting folks to Springfield into the LTD fixed system. And in South Lane County to Cottage Grove, where someone can connect either with the LTD connector mod service or onto our fixed route system. These all range in fares from $2.50 to $5 based on the service. And they also provide complimentary passes for connecting services. And then next slide, if you don't mind. I want to make sure that we have time for any questions about either of these services. They're very different. They're both reliant on discretionary funds to be able to have ongoing operations.
Thank you, John. Questions from the committee? Go ahead, Bart.
A quick question on the route between Mapleton and Deadwood. What's
Yes.
the ridership been like so far?
Very light. We've done significant outreach efforts. So our marketing team's been doing a really great job of making sure that residents are aware. However, it's pretty low population area. So currently we're not seeing much in the way of ridership. Not unusual for brand new pilot programs to see low ridership, but I think even amongst that, we're seeing very few residents taking advantage of the service, which is good information and data for us to learn. But we're looking forward to seeing how that continues to develop.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Yep, go ahead.
On the rural shuttles, since you have to pre-schedule those, are those picking people up at their home, or do they have to try to get to a assigned location?
Yeah, correct. So we're able to pick someone up at their home within our designated geographic areas. So on our website and all the materials that we produce, we show our service area, and we actually have an app that will connect and show folks whether they're in or out. But the intention is that we'd be able to pick up anyone along those corridors. So with the understanding that we might learn a few things along the way. So we're very careful in developing our geographic areas to keep in mind as we get further and further out into rural communities, there may be alleyways with tree overhangs and gravel roads that our vehicles may not be ideally suited for. We've been trying to adapt and plan accordingly around that, which includes trying some new vehicle types that might be able to go different places than our larger vehicles might otherwise be able to perform. So we're definitely getting valuable data and learning along the way. But the idea is for folks that are living in those communities and along those corridors, we'll pick them up right where they live.
Other questions from the committee? Okay, thank you, John.
Thanks, everyone.
So that is our last project presentation. We'll move on to the discussion and funding recommendation. Kathleen, did you want to?
We have one more project.
We have one more presentation. I am so sorry. Presentation number 9 is the Lane Transit District Downtown Circulator Pilot Extension, presented by Dave Roth.
Hello, members of the committee. Hopefully you can hear me okay.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Dave Roth, Director of Planning with Lane Transit District. So the last presentation, we'll keep this pretty brief. I'm going to talk to you about the new downtown loop service in Eugene, Oregon. This service represents a partnership between the City of Eugene and Lane Transit District, who collaborated in advance of the last STIF discretionary funding cycle to develop a new pilot that would better connect downtown with the growing riverfront, as well as the Midtown area south of downtown. So in terms of the service itself, we launched a 2-year pilot that was funded in part by STIF discretionary funds last round in the fall of 2025 to, again, improve bus service. The updated route modified an existing route, which was the Campbell Center route, or Route 1, to serve this larger geographic area. It increased the frequency from 60 minutes to 30 minutes, so much higher frequency service for people, and it also extended the service later into the evening to provide better options in later hours for folks. So the new service started on September 7th, and the pilot was planned to conclude in the summer of 2027, representing that 2-year time period. However, with this current round of STIF discretionary funding through ODOT, they've offered up this new category of pilot extensions, which you just heard John speak about on the rural pilot. So we have an opportunity to go after some competitive funding to keep this service going for another year. And we think that that would be very positive, and both in terms of supporting the additional ridership that we're seeing on this pilot, as well as the great community feedback that we've received from our riders, both directly to our operators and submitted to LTD through our comments and feedback in the community. So again, we launched the pilot to connect to some of the new higher density housing in the riverfront area, the city hall, to improve transportation, as well as connecting people to businesses, grocery stores, pharmacies, as well as established housing in sort of the north of downtown area. It makes it easier for people living and working downtown to access grocery stores and, like I said, pharmacies, healthcare providers, jobs, and educational opportunities. So if you could go to the next slide, please. So this shows our ridership on the new pilot, and it's a comparison between the former route, which I spoke about, the Campbell Center route in blue, versus the ridership that we're seeing on the downtown loop, which again extended the route itself, added frequency and span. So you can see we're seeing really positive impacts on ridership. And as well as I mentioned, really good feedback we've received from our riders. So we are asking for $826,297 in STIF discretionary funding, plus we would match that with STIF formula funds in the amount of $206,000. So just a little over $1 million total to keep this going for an additional extra year. So with that, I'll stop and answer any questions that people might have.
Thank you, Dave. Questions from the committee? I have one. So with this chart that shows almost double ridership in some months, you mentioned increased span and frequency, and I know the route goes farther. In terms of how much LTD is spending in excess of what the Route 1 was, how does the ridership compare?
So I think, Josh, you're getting at the productivity question, which is, does the ridership sort of balance out with the amount of service we're putting out? I will say that the overall productivity has actually gone down a bit with the introduction of the additional frequency and span. Given that this is a pilot right now, we're not overly concerned with that. We would expect ridership to continue increasing based on what's happening right now, and as more housing goes in and more ridership generators. So I will say productivity has gone down slightly, but again, we're not overly concerned about that with the pilot.
Thank you. Other questions from the committee? Carrie?
I'm not sure if this is appropriate for this audience, but I think when we talked about this one last year, part of the downtown loop was this new brand, and there's the little signs that go up on the sign poles. But I don't think I've noticed anything different on the vehicles themselves. And I'm wondering if that was part of the original plan, was to do more branding on the buses so they'd be more visible out in the community.
Great question. And that was one of the original goals, was to have more dedicated marketing and branding for the route. So you did see in the previous slide the new rider that's attached to our bus stop signs on the top there. We've also done quite a bit of marketing with area businesses, providing them with downtown loop collateral, including handouts they can provide to their customers to encourage them to ride. So we've done quite a bit with the stops and sort of marketing directly to businesses. What we had not implemented was a dedicated vehicle that would have some distinguished branding, downtown loop branding on it. You will see, I think, in your list of applications that we are also submitting for a funding request of $720,000 for a dedicated vehicle for the downtown loop. And our intent there is to do branding on that vehicle. So that is on the list in front of you tonight. I will say that there are some challenges with that. That means that we have to dedicate a specific vehicle to this route, which takes away some flexibility for use for that vehicle if we don't want that branding to show up elsewhere in our system. So it is on the list. We're looking for that dedicated vehicle, and we would like to do branding and marketing on that vehicle itself.
Quick question, Dave. This is Dave Reeser here, and similar question to what I asked Rob Innerfield earlier with his pilot project. Just curious, what does success look like for you on this? And you talked about productivity, maybe dropping some, but then ridership increasing.
Yeah, we were looking at several things. So first of all, we're looking for the qualitative types of responses that we're getting back, and we will continue to survey our riders. I think we're planning to do a survey a little bit later this summer, once the pilot is in place for a full year, to get that kind of qualitative feedback from our riders and customers and community. So that's one factor. Ridership is right there with the qualitative feedback. And I would say at this point, ridership probably outweighs productivity for this particular route. We really want to see where this goes, and if it can continue to generate the growth in ridership that we're seeing right now. I think we would deem that a success.
Okay, so I will call that for this project. Thank you very much, Dave, for that presentation. Kathleen, I know we're reviewing, as was just mentioned, a couple of projects that we discussed last time. Do we have a couple of slides just to refresh the committee's memory about what those projects were about?
We do. Norma, if you could go to the 3 slides at the very end. Yep, go back one. Want me to walk through those, Josh?
Just real quick.
Yeah. So these were 3 LTD vehicle replacement projects, all valued at the same amount, a grant ask of $720,000 with $180,000 in match. The first was a replacement vehicle for our Diamond Express service. You heard John speak about that service just a short while ago. It's our service between Oak Ridge and Eugene, the only public transit service connecting those areas. We have several buses for this service currently, but one of those vehicles is a refurbished 2003 transit bus that has almost 400,000 miles on it. It is frequently out of service due to its age and its marginal condition. Right now, it's been out of service for several months due to a cracked frame. So it is definitely due for replacement. Next slide, please, Norma. The next was the bus you just heard Dave talking about, a replacement vehicle that would replace one of our fixed route vehicles that we currently have, an aging vehicle, and would provide a dedicated bus for the downtown circulator or downtown loop. The bus that we're seeking to replace is a 2011 full-size transit bus that has almost 600,000 miles on it currently. So again, a vehicle that's past its lifespan and definitely due for replacement. And this would allow LTD to have the kind of dedicated vehicle Carrie was talking about that has the specialized branding for the downtown loop service. And finally, third vehicle replacement for LTD is simply a generic fixed route bus. We are trying to right-size our fleet. Right now, we have a very high spare ratio because our fleet is, so many of our fleet vehicles are aging and like the ones I've talked about, are past due for replacement. This particular grant would replace another 2011 vehicle that has 640,000 miles on it. And by providing replacement vehicles with different sources of funding, including STIF discretionary or possibly 5339 in this case, that allows us to get rid of some of these aging vehicles and right-size the fleet so that we have an appropriate spare ratio that matches up with what the FTA recommends.
Okay, thank you for that summary, Kathleen.
Of course.
So I don't believe I have forgotten any projects now. So I am going to move us along to the committee discussion and funding recommendation. Kathleen, tell me if I'm wrong on anything I'm about to say, but this committee is charged with 3 main things. We're making a recommendation to the LTD board, which will then be making a recommendation to ODOT. ODOT is ultimately the entity that will be deciding whether these will be funded or not. These are in competition statewide, but not necessarily in competition with each other. All of these could be funded. None of them could be funded. I certainly hope that's not the outcome. So our first sort of charge is to determine whether or not a project should be funded and recommend that to the board. The second is if we choose to, we can prioritize these projects sort of internally to LTD. ODOT will look at that prioritization and consider it among other factors. In the past, this committee has decided that all of our projects are equally worthy of funding and have declined to give a specific prioritization to the projects, holding them all equal. To editorialize a little bit, I feel like this has been a generally successful approach because our projects have a fairly high funding rate in that statewide discretionary. But certainly, if the committee determines that prioritizing is something we want to do, we can absolutely do that. And then the third component is comments. And we're going to try and make some notes along with the fund, no fund recommendation, potential prioritization. We are forwarding on comments we may have on these projects to the LTD board. So if there are specific things we want to say about projects, we'll make sure those are noted. And before we make the final motion, we'll hopefully have those all up where we can all see them and make sure it reflects the feelings of the committee. So to sort of start this out easily, are there any projects that someone has a concern about funding that you feel like we should discuss? Dave?
Yeah, I don't have a concern, but I have a just clarifying question, if I may. When I look in the packet, it talks about maximum grant requests in Lane County, 6.4 million, and then maximum grant plus match, 8.1. And just to clarify, so we're not capped at any certain amount for Lane County. It just goes to all the state, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Bill.
A question for Kathleen, following up on Josh's summary of what we are needing to do and the higher level review committees. The ODOT review committee, when they evaluate these applications from all over the state, do they use a kind of quantitative criteria? Do they have a spreadsheet? They look at it in more detail than we would?
Yes, if you look at, let me just, sorry, too many papers. In your packet on page 5, I've got the ODOT selection criteria, and it shows you their key focus areas and the amount of weighting they're going to give to the score for each of those focus areas. I don't know how many points they assign or anything like that, but I do know how heavily they're going to weight each area. And you can see it differs for capital projects and operation projects.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Other questions or discussion from the committee on whether or not any particular project should be funded? The reason I ask is because if we all feel that all of these projects should be funded, that makes that portion of the conversation a little bit easier and we don't have to go project by project. Okay, hearing no objections, we're just going to note down that the committee recommends all the projects to be funded, and we'll include that in our final motion. Let's have the prioritization conversation. Is there anybody with a strong desire to prioritize the projects locally? Or have questions on that? Bill?
I don't think it's necessary to prioritize the projects. I'm reassured by what Kathleen explained about ODOT, looking at them. Obviously, somebody needs to prioritize them, and assume they'll have more staff resources to scrutinize them more carefully with a matrix and all of that. I'm reassured to know that somebody at a higher level will be prioritizing them.
And Bill, just to be clear too, it's not just ODOT reviewing it. It will go from ODOT to PTAC, the Public Transportation Advisory Committee, and then finally onto the Oregon Transportation Commission for final approval. So there'll be quite a few sets of eyes on it along the way.
Dave?
Yeah, I also remember the last cycle we went through and we chose not to prioritize, and I think it worked well that way, putting our best foot forward for all of these projects. There was nothing I read or heard from presenters that would make me feel worried about any one particular project or two, so I prefer to my preference would be to put our best foot forward and not prioritize.
Thank you. Other comments, thoughts? Okay, in that case, it sounds like the consensus of the committee is to not prioritize these projects, or rather to prioritize them all equally. Okay, so now let's just move on to some comments for the individual projects. I would love to hear from committee members aspects of projects that you found particularly compelling, or any other comments you might have that you feel important that we forward to the LTD board. Yeah, why don't
I'd like to comment.
Chelsea, go ahead.
I would like to comment on the Deadwood specific ride. I know that the ridership is down. It is a very, very small town. But I'm a part of the community group on Facebook, and it's got incredible feedback from the people who are utilizing it and encouraging others in the town to utilize it. And so that's been encouraging, and that's something that I do. I feel passionately about, and I do think that it will grow the more that the tiny, tiny town continues to talk to each other about it.
Thank you. Yeah, and Carrie had a good idea to maybe keep us organized. So for the rest of them, why don't we just go in order that they're on the sheet? So the two-wheel transit transition funds, any comments from the committee on that? Yeah, go ahead.
I think the potential expansion of the service area makes it an even more viable option, especially the expansion to North Eugene. Getting across the river has always felt like an arbitrary block in that system.
Dave?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, the bike share program in our region has just continued to expand every year, and it's been really remarkable to see the regional partnership, and then more recently with LTD really taking an interest in it. And I think it's, yeah, it just represents strong collaboration and commitment here, and really excited about this project.
Okay, thank you. Project number 2, the wheelchair accessible taxi pilot program. Scott, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it is a real gap all across Lane County, so at least it's starting somewhere. Paratransit cannot and does not fill this whole gap. So I would rank it really high on access for sure, as well as the community benefit, especially with the tourism aspect. I hadn't thought of that, but even with getting the Special Olympics here, I think that would be really important. And then I think the safety, it was just mentioned a little bit in the application, but for people with disabilities who are trying to flag down taxis or don't have transportation, it can lead to very vulnerable and dangerous situations. So I think it scores really high on all 3. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I just want to echo the importance of that gap that we currently have in our transportation network in the community. And so this is an important project to me. David.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to echo what I just heard from you both. And also, it really resonated with me hearing our presenter, Rob Innerfield, talk about folks with mobility constraints when they arrive here, for example, at the airport. They often don't have the same travel options as everybody else. And really, this is about creating the same types of travel options for everybody, and really important. Thanks.
Okay. The Eugene Florence Connector. Bart, I think you had some good things to say earlier. You wouldn't mind reiterating those?
It's a really good service. There's a lot of people that don't have transportation to go to Eugene for doctor's appointments and whatever. So this is an easy way for people to jump on the bus and head that way. So I am a strong supporter of it.
Yeah.
I think it also really increases safety. And I think maybe it was touched on that people who are maybe nervous to drive or maybe shouldn't be driving anymore, this creates a viable option to ease potential issues on that not so easy to drive roadway.
Yeah, that's another factor, is that road 126 between Florence and Eugene can be dangerous. So this makes it easier.
Yeah, Scott, go ahead.
I would also rank it really high on access. Out in Florence, there's a significant portion of people with disabilities, I think higher than the general Lane County. And getting to your healthcare is a vital thing, and most of the healthcare is here. So I think it's really important. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, project number 4, the category B bus purchase. It feels like a lot of the things we just said about the service itself could be said about the having an actual bus there to provide it. So I don't know if we can include ditto as the comment of the board, but maybe we could make use of Control C and Control V.
I would second ditto.
Yeah, thank you. Florence Yahat's connector.
Also a very good service. There's a lot of people that have mobility issues, and a lot of the older people that want to be able to get into Florence to go to shopping. Yachts does not have squat. I mean, it's a very small town, but they can take that bus. They go into Florence and do shopping. So strong supporter of it.
Cassette.
I would also just add that the Florence Yahat's connector also closes a gap of using public transit. It's not pretty, but having the ability to use public transit from north to south along the Oregon coast, that was a gap until that was filled. It was the single gap, so it fills that gap.
And I think pretty much the same safety and accessibility things we talked about with the Eugene Florence connector also exist with the Florence Yahats. A smaller community to a larger community. 101 can be a harrowing journey at times. So yeah, if we can include those as well. Other comments on this project?
Yeah, and that's the gap, like she was saying. Between Florence and Yahats and Lincoln City, that's a gap. And so there was never anything there. So now that they can get to Yahats and they can take a Lincoln County bus going north. So now you can actually go from Florence all the way up the coast to Astoria.
Bill?
I would add to what the others are saying, and that it's important in terms of economic development and in tourism. It's not a specific criteria in the list of criteria, although indirectly we have multimodal connectivity, community benefits. In my mind, tourism is not unimportant. Oregon is an attractive destination for travelers, and our coast is an amazing resource for tourists and local residents. So I would add to everything we're boasting about here, about that service, just that.
Thank you. Diamond Express Oak Ridge Eugene service. I feel like this is another rural service where many of the comments are the same. Do folks have, Scott, go ahead.
Same, but somewhat different. Access for sure, but I think in different ways than I've been meaning it before. So my last comments were meant for accessibility for people with disabilities. This one is just straight up for access, and then also based upon the scoring criteria, access for resource limited communities. I think it was pointed out how many Alice households are out there. I also just wanted to say it would score high for safety with me as well. Considering that is the only lifeline for that community, and with all our wildfires and ice storms and other disaster resilience issues, I think all of it should score really high. Thank you.
I agree with all of those, and I'd like to add, along with tourism, that's one of those routes that's just beautiful to look at. And in my position, we often encourage our clients to just hop on LTD and take a ride for the day and get out of town and just see Oregon, especially if they're not from the area. And so I know that's not a criteria, but the mental health aspect is often overlooked, just in the viewing of some of these routes.
Thank you, Chelsea. Okay, so we already have one comment from Chelsea on the LTD rural shuttle, particularly about the Deadwood route. Are there comments on the pilot program in general? Well, I will just note, we've been talking about accessibility for communities that don't have other options, and this pilot service is providing that in several of these communities, the Deadwood, Mapleton, and as well the Mohawk Marcola routes are both serving communities that don't have any other connection. And even though Cottage Grove itself is served by LTD, the surrounding area served by the rural shuttle is not served by any other service. So this fills a very important gap for those communities. Scott?
Yeah, just to echo what you were saying, LTD and connection to our transportation was a lifeline for me. It's a lifeline for most people. And I would put this as well under access for rural communities, as well as economic development, to Bill's concern.
Thank you. Downtown Circulator Pilot Extension.
Josh.
Yep.
Yeah, I think this is a great way to continue to bolster the new downtown riverfront district and really connect people throughout the downtown. Also, when parking for individual automobiles is a continued struggle in downtown, I think this is a good way to let people access the downtown throughout different blocks, and yeah, very supportive of it.
Yeah, and I'll note that this route extended an already existing route that connects the Campbell Community Center and that area with some senior housing to more amenities, both downtown as well as grocery stores, all the way down to 18th. So it's been a real extension of accessibility to folks who were already riding this route. So we have then the 3 vehicle replacement projects, hoping we can borrow from some previous comments, noting that the Diamond Express vehicle is also important. If you don't have a vehicle, you can't run the service. And so the important elements we remarked on earlier. There were also some things said in the presentation in our last meeting regarding new vehicles being more reliable, costing less in terms of ongoing maintenance. And actually, even if they are not alternatively fueled vehicles, being more sustainable because they're using renewable diesel, and frequently the emissions from a newer vehicle are less than an old vehicle.
Point of clarification, is this a capital project or an operations project?
Kathleen,
Capital,
okay.
if it's a vehicle purchase.
Okay, so the scoring is weighted just a little differently on that. So I just wanted to point out that, especially with what we heard about like a cracked frame with the bus and the reliability of it, safety is going to be more important to be scoring here, as well as that infrastructure and multimodal connectivity. They do allow buses, and this is increasing reliability. So just for the scoring matrix, I think that would be important.
Okay, and I think for those first 2 lines there, or or maybe the first three, you could copy those for projects 10 and 11. I think your last couple of comments there were specific to Diamond Express, or did they apply more broadly?
Thinking about it, yeah, they apply more broadly.
Okay.
And then for that specific one, it's a ditto to the number 6 ones as well.
Thank you. Okay, last project is the UO Intercity Electric Bus Charging Project. I'm shocked.
Great, thank you, Josh. Yeah, I just wanted to add that this is an example of a really good collaboration with interagency support. It's located on 13th Avenue, which is City of Eugene jurisdiction, but the adjacent land uses are the University of Oregon. And then located about half a block from LTD's MX station at Agate Street. So really a good example there of interagency collaboration and public-private partnership with MTR Western as well, and them having some skin in the game. And then lastly, this city bus system is just really critical for our resident students at the University of Oregon, getting to and from Portland area, as well as non-university community members.
Okay, Scott.
I mean, it's obvious, but just highlighting the climate benefits in the scoring matrix. So.
Thank you. Please.
I would agree with the benefit for students as well as the community members, but also our visitors when we have things like the Olympic trials and other major events. The accessibility to getting to Portland, for some reason, is something people are interested in doing. So that was a highlight I had noticed.
That's what I was going to say too, is for visitors and encouraging that for events.
Okay, excellent. I think we have a robust set of comments to forward to the LTD board. I want to thank our note taker for following along with all of that. Just looking at the totality of the projects, are there any other comments before we entertain a motion? Okay, with that, Carrie?
I'll make a motion. I move to recommend to LTD's Board of Directors the Lane County Stiff Discretionary and Stiff Intercommunity proposal list with comments on whether each project should be funded.
Second that.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second, so we are going to move to a roll call vote. When I call your name, please let me know whether you're voting in favor or opposition to the motion. Scott?
Yes.
Bart?
Yes.
Chelsea?
Yes.
Cassette?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So that is 7 votes in favor, 0 opposed. So the motion passes. Okay. Our final agenda item this evening are staff updates and future meetings.
Thanks, Josh. First of all, I just want to say to you all, that was great work. Thank you so much. Really, very impressive. And I just wanted to say thank you overall for the past 6-8 months. You guys have done amazing work, more meetings than we anticipated. You handled the coordinated plan. You handled 5310 funding for older adults and people with disabilities. And now you've just run through the stiff discretionary and stiff intercommunity. So my deep thanks. Really nice job. We are going to take a break for the summer. Meetings will resume in the fall. At the end of your agenda, there's a list, a schedule for fall meetings. There may be some changes based on what I learned from ODOT over the summer, but for now, that's what we've set up. Brianna and I wanted to just get time on the book so that rooms are reserved, all of that, and I will get invitations out to all of you. The saddest part of what I have to talk about tonight is that we have 3 members who will be wrapping up their work on this committee. Kelly Clark, Josh Myatt, and Dave Reeser are all wrapping up, and I just want to extend my thanks to all of them. It's been so valuable to have each of them on the committee. And Dave, since you are here tonight, we can single you out especially. I'm sorry Kelly and Josh aren't here, but I just want to note for Dave that he has served on this committee for 6 years. He was the committee chair for over 2 of those years. He did just outstanding work, and it's just been such a pleasure to have you. We are going to miss you. So thank you.
Well, Dave, since you're the only one here who's terming off, do you have any parting words of wisdom for the committee?
Goodness. Thank the Academy. No, no, it's just been wonderful to work with you all. And I like the connection with having a board liaison, and a special thank you to Kathleen and for all the staff work you've done. Really appreciated it. I know I especially appreciated it when I was serving as chair. And lastly, you're all in wonderful hands with Josh as your chair. Thank you.
Well, I can't let those words be the last ones we end the meeting on. I do also want to echo Kathleen's thanks to the committee for all your work over this past year. This was a lot to get through last meeting and this meeting, so thank you very much. This has been easy so far being chair, and I appreciate that very much. So with that, I will call this meeting adjourned.